President Trump says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extend their ceasefire by 3 weeks. He acknowledged the countries have Hezbollah to think about and says the U.S. would work with Lebanon to get the country, quote, straightened out. Since the initial truce went into effect, there have been alleged violations on both sides. Already O'Keefe pressed President Trump about what happens when the ceasefire expires.
What have the two sides agreed to here? A 3-week ceasefire with the hope that the leaders come and meet?
Yeah, 3 weeks. And the leaders will most likely be coming here during that time. And I think when they do, that's a very historic meeting. They haven't met for many, many years, as I understand. Never. They've never met.
We've got team coverage on this for you this morning. Charlie D'Agata standing by in Tel Aviv for us, tracking the latest on the ceasefire. But let's begin with CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi in our D.C. bureau. Olivia, good morning. What else is the White House saying about the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire, and where do things stand with the U.S.-Iranian potential negotiations?
Well, good morning, Errol. It's good to see you. As we know, that Israel-Lebanon ceasefire was really one of the conditions needed for those negotiations to happen between the United States and Iran. So this was really key. We saw that flurry of diplomacy last week where they attempted to get the ambassadors of both of these countries on the same page so that there could be a ceasefire, so then the U.S. could turn its attention to Iran. So now that they were able to get an extension of up to 3 weeks, the focus shifts back to Iran, where currently there is that naval blockade still in place, more assets going into the region, which I'm sure Charlie will talk to you about shortly. But the president, interestingly enough, when talking about these negotiations, had wanted to get a deal done very quickly. We had seen him on Truth Social and in person saying that he wants to get a deal made with the Iranians. Now the president is saying he's not in a rush to do so. He has said repeatedly that he feels no pressure to make a deal soon. Take a listen to what he told reporters yesterday in the Oval Office about how he's feeling about making a deal.
I don't want to rush it. I want to take my time. We have plenty of time, and I want to get a great deal. I want to get a deal where our nation and the world is safe from lunatics with nuclear weapons.
And Errol, I think it's important to point out here that the president previously said this war would take between 4 to 6 weeks. We are now well within the 8th week and potentially longer in this conflict. And it seems the president would be level setting that it's going to take more time to bring this war to an end.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi in our D.C. bureau. Olivia, thank you. CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us now from Tel Aviv. So, Charlie, we have this 3-week extension to the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire. But what's happening on the ground, and what is Hezbollah, which has been Israel's target, saying?
Yeah, Errol, good morning. You say the ceasefire has been extended, yet Israeli forces launched strikes in southern Lebanon. They said they were targeting buildings used by Hezbollah. That was in response to a rocket barrage from the terror group the previous night, the night before, in northern Israel. And we're learning a Lebanese female journalist, Amal Khalil, she was 43 years old. She was also killed in that Israeli strike. The Lebanese government is calling it a war crime. So technically, it's still holding, but it's fragile and volatile. That shows you just how fragile the situation is. But the White House announced that 3-week extension as the second round of talks are taking place in Washington between Israel and Lebanon. You mentioned Hezbollah. Who's not at those talks? Hezbollah. Israel and Lebanon are not at war. Israel's fight is with the militant group. In previous rounds of fighting, Israel has killed most of Hezbollah's leadership. Remember the beeper attacks, battlefield commanders, much of its missiles and rocket arsenal. But as we've seen for ourselves, sometimes very up close in the north, Hezbollah continues to manage to fight back. So what they're really hoping for, and really both Israel and Lebanon are hoping for, they find a way between them to disarm the group. And while it is, weakened, certainly people here in Israel are relieved to hear that at least there has been an extension, particularly in northern Israel, which has come under repeated attacks.
One aspect of the ongoing war, you also have the U.S. and Iranian standoff over the Strait of Hormuz. That does not appear to have an end in sight. Yeah. We do expect to get an up-to-date update from the Pentagon in about 45 minutes today, a press briefing. I'm curious what you are most interested to hear from the U.S., because it doesn't seem that the current status quo can be maintained for long.
No, Errol, it's a standoff. And, you know, these things are linked. When we talk about Israel and Lebanon and Iran and Hezbollah, these are all interlinked. And that's why it's important to continue to report about all of that. Now, Iran can continue to hold indefinitely its grip on this Strait of Hormuz because it owns the shoreline. But economically, it's like an own goal, right? It's hurting that country, too, especially with the U.S. blockade stopping ships getting to and from Iranian ports. So there is a standoff here. Most of those are oil tankers. So it's a bit of self-sabotage. And from a U.S. standpoint, you've not only got the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier and its entire strike group in that region, but the USS Tripoli, that amphibious. They've got the Marines on board who captured that Iranian flagged ship a few days ago. So like a dozen destroyers. And of course, among many options that they're looking at is to hold on to that Strait of Hormuz, if necessarily, by force. Errol?
All right, Charlie Daggett with the latest for us in Tel Aviv. Charlie, as always, thanks.